Hey, let's go. Part 2. I'm absolutely loving preparing for this 4-part series, more than I expected, because it's like therapy. Like going back over your life and, well, it's life, 4 years, it's not exactly a lifetime, is it? But going back and thinking about, because, we don't spend a lot of time doing that, do we, really? I don't spend too much time thinking about what happened yesterday, really, when we're busy. So it's been so therapeutic to go back and think like, oh yeah, and then that happened, and this happened, and then that happened, and it felt like this, and so many lessons in there that it's helped me to kind of rediscover as well. So let's see who we've got logging in. Hey Lucilla. Hey Nicole, how you doing? So I've just got off while people are getting logged in, I'll tell you this, just got off a group call, hey Caroline, with my Wealth Accelerator mentorship ladies. And one of the girls in the group, her name's Faye, she has the coolest business. She's a geomancer. So she helps female entrepreneurs to become aware of how things outside of themselves are affecting them. So like things like the moon, the sun, the water around them, the earth, and how actually your location, the time of the month, the time of the year can be affecting you. But if you're aware of it, then you can use it to your advantage to give you the edge in success. So Faye's business is pretty cool. She's in the Wealth Accelerator. She's a client of mine and friend, as they all are. And a few months ago, when it was a really powerful full moon, I noticed a pattern in the group. Like the struggles seemed to be more frequent and intense. And I knew that from the way I was feeling around that time, woo-woo, I know, but I know for certain that this stuff has an impact. So I shared that in the group and talked about, moon cycles and how it can affect you. And Faye came forward and said, shall I do a masterclass for everybody? So what I love about the group as well is that it's not just about learning from me and the team, obviously that plays a huge part, but it's about what everybody brings to the party. So Faye ran a 1-hour masterclass, hey Michaela, today in the group about how to use these things like water, sun, moon, time of the month, time of the year to our advantage to give us the edge. It was brilliant, absolutely fascinating. So I've just logged off that call. Who else have we got here? Hey Caroline. Hey Tasha. Oh, thank you. Hey Claire, how you doing? I said hi to Michaela, I think. Yeah, I said hi to Michaela. Hey Evie, hey Carl. So I'm not going to keep you guys waiting for part 2 much longer. So for those of you that don't know, I started as part of Soul Centered Millionaire TV, which is actually episode 21 today. So we've been running this for over 21 weeks already, where we combine no bullshit business strategy with a little bit of magic, so a little bit of the woo-woo, to help female entrepreneurs to achieve a life of success. And this show, hola guapa, hey Leanne, this show is for you. It's to help you, with love from me to you, with strategies. And I don't use the word mindset so much. It's more about alignment with who we really are to achieve success. Now the last week, this week, and 2 weeks from now, so 4 weeks on the bounce, we're doing something a little bit different. I'm sharing with you my journey in depth, prompted by a memory that came up on Facebook that, hey Amanda, oh, thank you. So many compliments about the brunette hair. It's definitely a keeper. It's definitely a keeper. I'm loving all the compliments. Keep me going. Hey Joanne. So a memory came up on Facebook, and it was of a picture of me in the caravan. I was recording a video. And I guess I just had one of those moments where I was like, fuck, that was only 4 years ago. In the grand scale of things, that's no time at all. I hope my neighbours, you can't hear my neighbour rabbiting on in the background. He's being noisy tonight. It's no time at all. And from 4 years to, selling everything I owned to invest in self-development and to focus on my business and putting my house up for rent and just going with just a few pairs of clothes and my dog. Oh, thanks, Lucilla. From that to 4 years later being a self-made millionaire, paying my mortgage off in full on my dream house. Not this one, by the way. We haven't moved in yet. We're in the process of renovating it. And achieving some awesome stuff like appearing on Fox TV, writing a #1 best-selling book, appearing in Forbes magazine. Like, the list is just travel. I mean, that's really what does it for me. The amount of incredible places I've travelled to in the last 4 years, and it's only been 4 years since I was sat in that caravan. So I thought, I need to break this shit down. I need to go back over it and think, what did I do? When did I do it? What was the big differences? And share it with you guys, which is what this 4-part series is about. Hey Jem. So I'm going to stop saying hello to everybody now, and I'm going to dive into part 2. If you haven't seen part 1, this isn't going to make too much sense. What you might want to do is go back. So on this page that you're logged into now, if you log out of the video and scroll down, you'll find part 1, which was recorded this time last week. So you might want to start there. So last week brought us literally to the point where we decided everything had got to go. We packed up and we moved in to the caravan. Guys, would you just let me know who's here, and just let me know by saying hi, I'm live, or even if you're watching on replay, let me know you watched on replay. But also, if you wouldn't mind sharing this, I want to reach as many women as possible with this story, because it's really, really impacted people in a way that I never expected. Even if you just if you don't want to share it, you want to tag people that are in business, women in business that you know need to hear that it's possible, no matter where you are now. Hey Joe, because I've had so many messages off the back of this. Hey Nicole, that have said to me, this has made a big difference to me because this is my situation right now and it feels like I can't escape it. But actually listening to your stories made me realise that in just a year, 2, 3, 4, it could be completely different. And that was what this is all about. Hey Leona. So I'm going to start saying hello to everybody now, because it's Hey Jane, blast from the past. Okay, so last week brought us up to the part of the story where we moved into the caravan. Thanks for sharing, Lisa. So what happened then was really unexpected. So there was James and I, our 2 dogs, Harvey and Missy, 2 King Charles Spaniels. We had 2 at the time. We've got 3 now because we picked up another rescue along the way on our travels. I'd literally have a house full if I could. We'd started to, for the first time in a really long time, if I'm honest, we'd started to feel free, like a weight had been lifted. I think we'd been so bogged down by the pressures of life, you know, what everybody has to be bogged down by apparently. Paying the bills, getting on the property ladder, making sure we were seen as successful, paying for the cars, all of that stuff. I think we'd been so bogged down by that for a really long time we hadn't realised that we didn't feel truly free. And all of a sudden, without all the stuff weighing us down, hey trust, and without all the pressure financially, but I don't know, even time-wise. I mean, I only had this little caravan. I didn't have to clean it. Like, it sounds silly, but I used to spend like a good chunk of my day cleaning the house and stuff because I'm a bit of a neat freak, and I genuinely believe your environment affects everything. So I couldn't just sit in mess. So suddenly that had kind of been eradicated. The day-to-day chores, the garden, all that had been eradicated. On every site that we lived on for a while, and we moved around a lot, but everywhere we pitched had their own facilities. So they'd have like pools, they'd have like showers, and some of them were dead lush as well. And I didn't have to clean the shower after I got out of it. I didn't have to clean the toilet. It's just little things where I saved a shit ton of time, and I never really anticipated any of that stuff. You know, that wasn't the reason that we moved in there at all, but there was all these unexpected things. And we were just literally putting a pin in the map and going, let's go there next, let's go there next. And as long as we had Wi-Fi, which most of the sites did, or at least had access to 4G, I could keep building my business as I went. But I just felt more in balance than I'd ever felt. I felt happier than I'd ever felt. You know, I could wake up with the view of the sea, like a 5-star view, and I'd be paying pennies for the pitch fee. And it just gave me a new lease of life, like, because I'm very driven by variety. Things that stay the same I get bored. So being able to just pick up and go somewhere else at the drop of a hat really fit my personality, and it helped me get into what I call peak state. Now, this is a really key lesson from this part of the journey, because I realised the impact of just feeling good. The impact that has on your ability to achieve and create more. Because when you're not the best version of you, you don't produce your best work. You just don't. It's very logical when you think about it, but when you're stuck in that state, hey Kerry, it can be really difficult to break the cycle and get out of it. When I was stuck in that house, in an office, in a room, a box room, hey Lizzie, that I'd created to turn into an office, worrying and stressing and working ridiculous amounts of hours and not really getting out into nature enough and just not really looking after myself through pressure, I didn't realise how low vibration I'd become. And breaking that cycle with something radical taught me such a valuable lesson about the way you feel and the impact it has. We can neglect ourselves so much. As I'm not going to keep saying hello because I'm getting distracted. We can neglect ourselves so much as entrepreneurs. And especially when our back's against the wall financially and we feel like we have to make this work, we can give to the detriment of ourselves, which in turn isn't productive for the business. And for the first time ever, without the financial pressure, because our outgoings were dead small now, we'd made ourselves as small as possible, and all the other things I've mentioned, I realised what had been missing for me. Why I'd felt like I was banging my head against a brick wall, because up until that point, I'd really felt like I couldn't work any harder and I wasn't getting any further. And suddenly I was working probably less, but I was so much more productive because I was happier. I was less stressed, less in fear. So I woke up with a spring in my step. I was more inspired, more creative, more empowered from the decision I'd made. I was more productive because I felt good. And I'd got balance where I'd put work down for a couple of hours. We'd go for a walk on the beach and little things that we weren't able to do when we lived in the house that we lived in. So I really noticed that difference. And that lesson, just that one lesson, was a big catalyst to the success that we then went on to have and still enjoy, because I'll never ever again neglect myself to that point, because I can see the direct correlation between the way I feel and my happiness and how much it is possible for you to create in terms of success. Happy women make more money and have more success. Fact. So you've got to do whatever you can to get yourself in a state where you're happy and put yourself first. Now, what then happened was I started to find myself making more time to work on two things, which is really what Soul Centered Millionaire TV is all about. It's about no bullshit business strategy and the woo-woo side, the alignment. And this was the first time really that I started to make time to work on the woo-woo side. I've always been very no bullshit business strategy, let's get shit done, let's work the strategy and just rinse and repeat when we find what works, and logical when it comes to business. But at this point in my life, I've always been very spiritual as well. Oh, Michaela, I'm so glad. I've always been very spiritual as well. And I never put the two together when it came to business. It's like I separated them. It was like, that's my spiritual beliefs inside and this is business. And I wasn't quite sure how they went together. But I started to work on me more. I started to invest in not only business strategy help, but in coaching from a mindset point of view. Now, it came packaged as mindset. This is where I first worked with my first mindset coach and bought my first mindset program. But it wasn't mindset at all, really. It was about alignment. It was about connecting with my higher self, connecting with my soul, knowing from an intuition or universe or whatever you want to call it point of view, what was right for me and what wasn't. I started to work on that. And what happened next was pretty phenomenal, because we only ended up being in the Caravan for 6 months. And within a 6-month period, if you remember when I said we moved in, I was earning about £1,500 a month from my business. My outgoings in the house at a bare minimum were about £3,000 a month. So we were really, really, in the negative. And that was the biggest thing that was stressing me out and causing the fear. Moving into the Caravan, obviously, I'd made myself dead small. I'd made my outgoings dead cheap. But the other thing that happened across a 6-month period, probably even less than that, was that my income grew really quickly to 3,000. I doubled it really quick. Within the first few months, I doubled my income. And it wasn't so much that I was doing anything different in terms of strategy. Yes, I'd started to get more help around strategy. I'd started to invest in more knowledge in terms of digital marketing because I could afford it now. I'd started implementing new things. But really, it was more about the way I was feeling. Because, you know, if we feel good, we find the answer. If we feel good, we execute quicker and more effectively. So I'd started to execute quicker and more effectively. So my income did this really quickly. And it wasn't astronomical amounts, you know, but I was now earning 3,000. And that was the point where if I could have literally at that point gone back and lived in my house and been able to cover my bills from the business. I wouldn't have had much left, but I would have been able to cover the bills from my business. And that was the first goal, tick. And it probably was about 2 or 3 months to that point, and then we started to go, you know, quite above and beyond that. Next, 6,000 a month. And that was the point there, around that 6 month mark, 6,000 a month. So I've been in the caravan about 6 months, earning about 6,000 a month, and my outgoings were tiny. And this is where I was like, I realised the power of keeping yourself small and growing your income. Not growing your expenses to match your income all the time and constantly feel like you've got a noose around your neck. But this is where I experienced real kind of freedom financially, and it wasn't huge amounts of money that I needed it to give me that at all. But for the first time ever, I was like, I can save, I can invest more in me, and I felt abundant. I was living in a caravan, guys, but I felt so abundant, so abundant. I could go and eat out. We could go and get takeout if I wanted to. We didn't spend loads of money on doing that though, because I wanted to watch the savings rise. I became obsessed with never being in the situation we were in again. I became obsessed with allocating percentages towards what I call a warrior line, so that we never dip below that in the bank account. I became obsessed with immersing more in self-development so I could be more. Because if you focus on being more, you'll always have more. So I knew that if I wanted to create more, I'd got to be more. So I just kept investing in me, and I became obsessed with investment, and I became obsessed with saving and keeping my outgoings low. And I was really reluctant to change anything, to be honest, because why change something that's working so well? I wasn't worried about impressing anyone anymore. I had a taste for freedom. I didn't care if I was living in a fucking cardboard box. I just did not want to ever go back to feeling so scared and out of my depth, like, you know, financially ever again. I didn't want to feel like that. So I was in no rush to change it. But the winter started to set in the UK, and it's not pleasant. I mean, caravans are awesome nowadays, and you've got central heating, but still, you know, I was starting to feel called, and I say called because I've started to really connect with what felt right, and I was moving more with my feelings rather than logic. And this is where I started to use the term soul yes. Is it a soul yes? Because logically something might be a yes, but is it a soul yes? You know, do you feel it here like fire? Like, yes, I've got to do this, or no, it's absolutely not for me. Because that's the part of myself that I'd started to listen to more and spend time really connecting with, and not even in a deep meditation way, just quieting my mind every now and then, going for a walk and asking questions and listening to my body for the answer, listening to my soul. I always feel it kind of in between your boobies here. That's where I always feel it, like that. Yeah, this feels right. No, it doesn't. We all have it, but we just have to be high vibration and in aligned enough to be able to hear it. When we get too stuck in logic, we end up too stuck in the brain. And the brain is really like, the way I always describe it is, noisy bike. The way I always describe it is the brain is there to keep you safe as a human being. It's a function, it's like a computer, it's mechanical almost. It helps you to stay safe by throwing up fears. You know, it's there to serve you in a way, but it's the same part of your brain that could have kept me from selling the house, that could have told me stories based on the information that it has, like, and that's built from other people's beliefs and what you've been told and TV shows and all that stuff. You know, the brain was telling me things like, you shouldn't be selling your house. What a failure are you? You can't even afford to live in your house now, because it's just drawing information that it knows to be true based on facts that it's been fed over your lifetime. But the soul is something completely different. That's like the all-knowing part of ourselves that isn't mechanical at all by nature. It can survive past the human body. That's the bit of myself that I started to really tune into and listen to. And you have to just turn down the noise sometimes and not listen to the fear, because you've got to remember that the soul side of yourself would never tell you anything that was scary. It would never tell you anything to hurt you. Therefore, the fears that are coming up, they must be mechanical. So I started to shut that down a little bit and learn how to quieten that and listen here. And what happened was amazing. So I'd started to feel called to warmer climates I didn't want to go back to the house, even though I could more than afford to live in the house. It was an old chapter. It wasn't something I wanted to go back to. I only wanted to go forward. Going back wasn't an option. But I knew that I'd outgrown the caravan. I knew that I wanted to be in a warmer climate. And that's kind of all I know. I just started writing some of these things down. And a friend got in contact with me, and she wanted me to run a retreat with her. And like a joint retreat. We were going to have 2 villas, and she'd chosen the destination to be Lanzarote. Now I'd got, the brain side of me went, Lanzarote, because that's what I'd heard someone else call it. I didn't know if that was true or not. It's just what I'd heard. Lanzarote, why would you want to go there? I wouldn't even want to go there on a holiday, let alone take people for a retreat. Not sure it's for me. But then the soul side of me was like, go to Lanzarote, say yes. Okay, that's the part I'm going to go with every time, because it never ever guides you wrong. So I was like, yes, let's do it. And one of the ladies, there was a lady who was a top leader and a bit of a role model for me. I didn't know her personally, I'd not spoke to her, she'd not coached me, but she got the level of success that I was aspiring to. She ran a villa rental company in Lanzarote. It's one of her businesses. And one of the villas that we were using was one of her villas. And it was used for these quite business like type retreats a lot. And I admired her success. I admired her approach to online marketing, attraction marketing. So we were at an event, a seminar that she was at. My friend who asked me to do the retreat had booked the villa, so I'd had nothing to do with that side of it. I was just working on getting people at this retreat. And we were at this seminar, and this lady walks past, and I thought, go and talk to her, tell her that you're going to be booking out her villa, and just start a conversation, because but at that point I knew I'd got to surround myself with people that were just, you know, on another level to where I was at, because, you know, there's an old saying, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. And I'd ended up in my circle becoming the smartest person in the room just by working on me and not changing the circle. And it's not that I've got to change it, but I definitely got to level up and get myself around other people. And it was really out of my comfort zone to go and talk to somebody, especially someone I looked up to. It's out of my comfort zone to go and talk to anybody really that I don't know. And the introvert in me always pulls back. I was like, no, let's do it. So we did. We went over, James and I introduced myself and said, we're coming out to Lanzarote, we're staying in one of your villas, just wanted to say hello and introduce myself. And she was like, oh, great, I'm really glad that you have. And she'd actually seen some of my marketing on Facebook, so she knew who I was, and that felt really, really good. And she said, I'll tell you what, I'll pop in and do like a training at your business retreat if you want me to, which was a huge honour. And because of that, we ended up spending quite a bit of time with her at this retreat, because I put myself out there in a way that I wouldn't normally. And she came to the retreat, she did an amazing training, and we clicked quite in a weird way really, like a soul, yes, like a soul connection, like for whatever reason, not necessarily a lifelong friendship, we wasn't necessarily similar, but for whatever reason we felt drawn to each other and kind of knew there's more to this than just a couple of hours at a retreat. So she'd said to me, you know, pop round for dinner one night or pop round for a drink one night while you're still here, and we got chatting. Now, on the last day of this retreat, I was starting to feel sad about going back to the caravan. I'd just spent this time in this beautiful villa in the sun, and yeah, I was feeling a little bit sad. So I did what I always do when something doesn't feel right anymore. I got a pen and paper, I sat by the pool, and it was departure day, so we're literally leaving for the airport in a few hours. I sat by the pool and I wrote a list of what I wanted. There's a really good success tip here. Pen, paper, do not underestimate the power of pen and paper to getting your thoughts out for them to then manifest into reality. And I wrote down the question I asked at the top is, what do you want? What do you feel called to do next? And the answer was, I want to live in the sun. I want to spend some time in the sun seeing if it's for me. I want to live in a villa that I've got room for my family to come out and visit, that I've got room to run maybe my own retreats if I want to continue, because I've really enjoyed that week. I want to be by the sea. And I wrote this list. I want to have access to a pool. And it was quite a big list, really. I mean, I wasn't earning huge amounts of money then, about 6,000 a month. But I thought, no, this is what I want. The first step is just getting it on paper. And then, because it was on paper, I felt called to take inspired action. And I messaged the lady who had the villas and said, look, we love Lanzarote unexpectedly. We weren't even going to come. We nearly said no, but we love it. And you've been here for a while. I've had a little look online, which I had at that point. I can't see any rentals for like long term. I wanted to do about 6 months to a year to work out if it was somewhere we wanted to stay for longer. But there seems to be no long-term rentals at all anywhere on the island. Wondering if you knew someone. So she messaged me back within minutes. Oh my God, this feels like fate. What are you doing now? Can I come and pick you up? And I'll show you a property. And I was like, what? Like, everything was happening really quick. But what had ended up happening, absolutely tragic, because her father had passed away very unexpectedly a few months previously. It was still really raw. It was an absolute tragedy for them. My heart went out for them. She still did the retreat, even though that had just happened as well. And the house that her mum and dad had lived in for quite a long time and made a lot of memories there was now empty. Her mum was living in a different house, but it got a lot of memories. They didn't just want to put it on the holiday market for anybody to go in and not treat it with respect. But we'd formed this quite a deep bond in a really short space of time. She was like, so maybe this is happening for a reason. Now on the island of Lanzarote, you just cannot get long-term rentals. I mean, you can ask anybody that lives there. It was a really tall order for me to even think. We didn't know how tall at the time, but people wait for a long time for rentals to come up, and they just don't come up. And when they do come up, they're really overpriced. Because people can put their houses on the holiday market and get so much more in terms of return on investment. So there's no reason for them to rent it out in long term. So I didn't realise what a big ask my wish list was, really. And she walked us around this beautiful villa, 4-bedroomed, close enough to be able to see the sea from the garden, pool access, space for family, space to run retreats if we wanted to. Everything that I'd written down an hour before, maybe even not an hour. Spooky. But all I could think when I was walking around it might not be in our budget, because I still wanted to keep my outgoings really small. I'd got a figure in my head and I was like, if we can't make it work for that, then I'm not doing it, because I don't want to put pressure on myself. As much as my business was now bringing in about 6k a month profit, it was only very new, it was shaky, it was unstable, like it could have dipped. Businesses do that. So I didn't want to put myself back into the space where I had before. So I said to her, look, if it's within our price range, then I think we'd love to take it, but let us know. She had to go and speak to her mum because it wasn't hers. We flew out that day, and I just knew, it was a soul yes. I was like, we're going to be moving to Lanzarote. And he's like, look, we'd still got the caravan, we'd only been in it 6 months, we'd got to go and sell it. She came back a couple of days later, and the exact figure that we'd got for the budget that we'd written on paper was what she came back with. It was well underpriced for what it was, but it worked for them too. They wanted someone in there that was going to look after it, someone they could trust. We wanted it. 6 weeks later, we moved in. So in that time, we've got to get back, sell the caravan, put some of the things into storage that we couldn't take with us, get ready, packed up. Wasn't that much to do, to be fair, because we hadn't got much stuff with us. Packed our life into a suitcase and planned the ferry trip over so we could take our dogs with us, and off we went. That was it. Like, the rest is history. We ended up. Now the spooky thing is, I booked a spiritual reading with a lady who'd come recommended. I have regular readings. I have a regular spiritual coach now that I meet with every month. More on that later. But she said to me on the call, she said, I can see you working from somewhere in the sun. And it was just a call. It wasn't a video. It was just a call. She didn't know anything about me other than my name through text. Weren't connected on social media. She had no way of knowing that I was moving. And she said to me, I can see you working in the sun. You've been wondering, where you should be next. And I'm being called to tell you that you'll know when you're in the right place when you can see the lighthouse. And I was like, oh, okay. And this was recorded, so I listened to it again, and it didn't make a lot of sense at the time, but other things that she'd said did. First night we moved to Lanzarote, the first night we were in there, we arrived at night, and I was sat in the lounge, with double doors looking out towards the sea, and I could just see this light, and I kept staring at it thinking, is that a plane? And I was like, James, is that an aeroplane? And he went, I fucking hope not, because if it is, it's doing circles. And we're both looking, and he was like, oh, it's a lighthouse. Goosebumps. We'd viewed that house in the day. The lighthouse was quite far away. I 1000% hadn't seen it at that point. And I just knew, I just kind of sat on the sofa that night, and I just kind of breathed out, and I knew in that moment I was exactly where I was meant to be. And I feel emotional thinking about it now, because I can remember it vividly. I can remember realising it was a lighthouse and feeling like it's over, because it had been a really difficult year, and I just thought it's over. And not because outside circumstances had made it so, but because I'd gone within for the answer, and I took bold action. And I knew that from that point on, not that it would always be easy, because we always have challenges, and even when we're on the right path, we have struggles. But I knew from that point on I would always be okay, because I'd accessed this part of myself that was always going to be with me, and that was always going to be guiding me, and all I'd ever got to work on was two things. And that was constantly keeping myself aligned with that intuition, and constantly taking bold, inspired action from a strategic point of view in business. And I just knew I'd always be all right now. And I cried that night like a baby, but happy tears of just, it was almost like I felt like I could fall back into this ever supporting, almost like cushion, and just know that I was supported. I'd been led to exactly where I needed to be at exactly the right moment, and I was just so excited to see what was next, because I knew I was there for a reason. And that leads me on to some of the points that I'd love to pick out for you of this chapter, some of the key lessons for me when I was going over this and remembering. First one is, work harder on your vibration than you do on anything else. You know, if you know me well enough by now to know that I'm all about strategy. It's a business. If you're running a business, you need a strategy. You've got to be thinking strategic. You've got to have processes and procedures in place. You can't fly by the seat of your spiritual pants and expect to be really successful. You just can't. And that's the truth. You know, I work with so many women that come to me because they're all logic and they just want strategy, and they haven't even introduced the idea of alignment and tapping into their spiritual side yet for success. And we help to balance those women so that they have more of that feminine energy and connection to source. And then I have women come to me that are so deeply connected to source and so spiritual and so, you know, aligned and listen to their internal self, that they've kind of forgot the business strategy, and it's bit them in the backside, because they're just kind of taking action when it feels inspired and not when it doesn't. And we're not in alignment all the time, because we're human beings having a human experience. It's not possible. So in the down times when they're not aligned, their results are inconsistent, and they need the strategy side, and it's just not their strength. Again, we help to bring those women into balance. And this is all really the root cause of this journey. I can see that now going back over it. I'm like, fuck me, this is where it all started. This is how I've ended up building the brand that I have and doing the work that I do, and it being so unique and so life-changing for the women that it touches, because it started with this struggle, my own struggle, which is what I say to the women I work with all the time. Your struggles are the keys to the things that you're going to go on to change the world in some way with and change people's lives with. Struggles that you've had previously are clues towards the life's work that you could be doing now and monetizing, and not just creating a phenomenal profitable business, but impacting the world in a positive way. It's about, this is what I fucking live for, and it started here. So work harder on your vibration than anything else. If you feel good, the other stuff will be easier. It won't follow effortlessly. It won't just, the strategy won't land in your lap and you'll just know exactly what, you've still got to, you know, take steps to have processes and logic and get help knowing what steps to take. But if you can feel good first and foremost, everything else will be easier. Say yes more. This is a big lesson for me around this time. I nearly said no to that retreat because I was like, oh, Lanzarote. I nearly listened to the logic side. You know, Lanzarote, it's meant to be a bit of a shithole. I've never really wanted to go there. Isn't it like black and volcanic? Oh, it doesn't sound pretty. Da, 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 da. Is it a waste of my time? Is it really something I should be doing right now? Say yes to adventure. one of my favourite films is Yes Man with Jim Carrey, because it's a perfect demonstration of how life can take on such a wonderful sense of adventure when you just learn to say yes. And, you know, yes to things that you wouldn't normally, yes to things that scare you. It frightened me to go up to that lady that I saw as a role model. I put her above me, which I should never have done, but I did in that moment. I was like, oh my God, she's so amazing. She's got all this success. She seems superhuman. Oh, I can't speak to her, but I did anyway. I went over and spoke to her, and I made a point of putting myself out there, and look at what happened because I chose to say yes and do something that frightened me. So the next success tip is, do things that scare you constantly. Don't allow your brain to talk yourself out of the stuff that frightens you, because just because it's a soul yes won't make it easy. Sometimes your soul goes yes and you're like, shit, really? Oh fuck, you want me to do that? But you're not allowed to only take action on the things that feel comfortable, because that will never lead you anywhere extraordinary. And the last thing is, make powerful decisions. Make powerful decisions and watch for the universe meeting you halfway, because it does every single time. When you make an excuse, you get presented with more of the stuff that you don't want. When you say it's too hard for me, I can't do that, it's not the right time, maybe after the school holidays, da da da, you get presented with more of that blah. When you go, right, I am ready and this is what I want, and I'm going to be the one to put the first foot forward and take powerful action, it's like the universe conspires to meet you halfway and make it so much easier for you. So make powerful decisions and then look for the signs of the universe meeting you halfway, because it does. Whether you believe it or not, it does. So guys, next week, part 3, I'm going to be sharing with you why, shortly after this and moving to Lanzarote, I felt guided to and did walk away from a 6-figure location independent income to do something that felt more aligned, and I did it with absolute certainty that I would turn it into a 7-figure empire really quickly. What led me to make that decision, why I made it, and then we're going to start talking about what action I took to, in that first year of a brand new business, not my first year in business, and this is the key now because I've got some experience, I've learned some things. First year of running a brand new business as a coach, I went on to generate 60 grand in 5 weeks from launching. It would have took me nearly, I don't know, 6 months to earn that previously in the business that I gave up. And then go on to develop a 7-figure business in 12 months. And within 10 months, hit my first 100 grand month, my first 6-figure month. I gave up a 6-figure income feeling like that felt like a big decision, a big deal, because it was like, oh my God, you've just got this location independence. You've got the 6-figure income back that you lost in nightclubs, that you've replaced now living a life that you want, and you're going to give it all up. And 10 months later, I've turned that into a 6-figure month, and consistent 6-figure months, by taking aligned action and implementing the strategies that I've been learning. So this is really just the beginning of the story. We're only halfway through, and next week I'll be sharing that with you. I'd love you to share, guys, if you don't mind and you've enjoyed tonight and last week. I'd love you to let me know what your key takeaways have been so far, like what's really spoke to you, by commenting in the chat box, because it does help me to know. It does. You know, it's nice to hear that you've made a difference, because you don't always get to hear how much of a difference you've made unless people tell you. So tell me any of your key takeaways or light bulb moments or anything that's really spoke to you so far. And if you feel inspired, to hit share so we can reach more people that might be feeling desperate, that might be feeling like it's never going to happen for me, to show that it can happen quicker than you think with taking the right action from the right place. And if you don't want to share, that's cool too. Just, you know, tag people that you can think of that you think are going to appreciate the message. Thanks, guys. Enjoy the rest of your week. Speak to you soon.